Hello, hello. Hello, I think we're about ready to get started. Welcome everyone to the last lecture series hosted by the Center for Educational Excellence. This event is modeled after the well-known last lecture talk given by Carnegie Mellon professor Randy Pausch. Many of us in this room probably remember the last lecture event. We were sitting in our living rooms watching Oprah Winfrey. Do you all remember that? With Randy Pausch? So we saw that. But Tarleton State University has held this last lecture event since 2014 when Dr. Chris Guthrie, professor of history, first started. And it was fantastic, those of you that remember that. So he was followed by several individuals, and if you're here when I call your name, please stand so we can acknowledge you. Dr. Jim Kirby in 2015. Yes, Dr. Jim Gentry in 2016. Dr. Rudy Tarpley in 17. Mr. Casey Thompson in 18. And Dr. David Frazier in 19. And then after a short pause during the height of COVID, we came back, and Dr. Reggie Hall was selected as the 2023 last lecture speaker. And what I know, and all of you know as well, this has truly become a signature event here at Tarleton State. So we are so glad that you're here. So here's the premise. If you had one last chance to impart wisdom from your life experiences, what would you say? That's the question to be answered by Tarleton's last lecture speakers. So our distinguished speaker tonight is Dr. Wendell Sadler, retired professor in the School of Kinesiology. He has had a distinguished 45-year career in education, and 29 of those years were spent here at Tarleton State. Sadler was born in Rushville, Indiana. He completed his bachelor's degree in Campbellsville University, master's at Baylor University, and PhD at Texas A&M University. Something that you might not know about Dr. Sadler, he was a collegiate tennis player at Campbellsville University, and he then transitioned to become a highly regarded and highly successful coach at the high school and college level. He's been honored 4 times as Coach of the Year, and he was inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame in 2017 at Campbellsville University, and inducted into the Texas Tennis Coaches Hall of Fame in 2000. But really, it's the time that he spent in the classroom that's his real passion. Dr. Sadler loves teaching the Tarleton kinesiology students. And he once said, "My classroom is a stage for the performance of each day's matinee, complete with known and unknown narration and the occasional curtain call. The encore is getting to teach again the following day." So what you might not know is Sadler has always been a theater nut, geek. That's his jam. So he's always been in theater productions right here on this very stage. But in the classroom, Sadler's definition of success was not to provide answers directly to students, but rather to create questions necessary for inquiry to take place on the part of the student scholar. "I don't know" was never an acceptable answer in Dr. Sadler's classes. He wanted his students to discuss, to have dialogue, to ask questions. He encouraged his students to excel, and we are so proud of that. As an educator, Dr. Sadler has had an outstanding career while at Tarleton State. He received the OA Grant Teaching Award, the Barry B. Thompson Service Award, and the Excellence in Scholarship Award. by the way. That is the trifecta of all things in academia. That is teaching, service, and scholarship, and Dr. Sadler did it. He also received the David K. Brace Award, which is the top award in the kinesiology profession within the state, the Chancellor's Academy of Teacher Educators Award from the Texas A&M system, and he is a Regents Professor with the Texas A&M University system. Sadler's a family man. He's married to his sweet wife, Grace, and his children, daughter Kendall and son Garrett. Please help me welcome Dr. Wendell Sadler to the stage to present his last lecture.
After me right now because I didn't mic up. And I shall do that very quickly. Scholars, thank you for being here. Jim Kirby, you drove a Corvette to this location in 2016, not to be outdone. I did not drive my Corvette here. Rather, I brought it on stage in a junior model. This occasion, thank you so much for the privilege of getting to come and speak. And staying alive. I'm going to stay alive, and I'm going to tell you how long here momentarily. But I have guardsmen, colleagues of mine here in attendance tonight. I have General Diggs. Thank you, sir. He's my boss. I'm the deputy commander. He's the commander of our brigade. We also have our brigade surgeon here, Colonel McBroom, and Lieutenant Colonel James McCune, who's our 1st Battalion Medical Unit commander. When I was thinking about this, I thought, gosh, well, I got all these medical guys coming here. They must be thinking about something that's going to happen. Well, something is going to happen tonight. And that is, before I go any further, I have to give, let's take a commercial break right now. Has anything been happening lately around here? Well, we had Easter, okay, perhaps the greatest of all holidays. We had April Fool's Day. Nobody got tricked, right? We had a little bitty thing yesterday. Was that not the most awesome thing that we almost didn't get to see? I tell you what, I'm going to be back in 2044 for the next one. I'll be 90 years old at that time. But so many times in class, I told my students that I was going to live to be 100. I've said that so many times that I've convinced myself that I'll live to be 100. And I have 31 years to practice, but I will. Dr. Peak mentioned my years here and years in education and so forth, and I've had a great career. My career spans 5 decades, and you know, I could do a lot of things. All of us in this room could do a lot of different things, couldn't we? I think I landed on what suited me the best, and the classroom was my ultimate experience. Being in the class, I miss the classroom. being in the classroom where you could set a pathway to excellence, chart a course, and strive to get there in a limited amount of time with brains that were fashioned such that we'll mold them just right. My scholars in class, I would say, I talked about plasticity a lot. Our brains are plastic. We can mold that, and that we did in so many occasions. So tonight, I'm going to take you down the pathway to excellence. Now, this is not new to me. It's 20 years old, as a matter of fact. When I was elected president of our great state association, the Texas Association of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, I was president 20 years ago. I had a theme to outline my entire year in that position. And so pathways to excellence. And I have made pathways to excellence part of my academic scholarship since then. And I have used it on presentations and articles and publications, so forth. But the pathways to excellence. And I'm going to amplify this as we go along. And decisions. We make decisions. We are given opportunities. We are given options. But it's the decisions that we make that ultimately define who we are and what we are here at the Academy. So let's have class beginning. And forgive me, I'm going to have to turn around from time to time because I'm not behind the computer over in the corner there. So this was my logo in Tayford. But I sure do like my Michelangelo saying. The problem is not that we aim high and hit, it's we aim low and hit rather than the opposite way. And isn't that the case? This is higher education. We want to strive for as academically successful as possible. And so we always have to aim high. And if we aim high and miss, we're going to aim again. Well, the King's Highway. A long time ago, a king decided that he wanted to build a highway for the people of his kingdom. He had many roadways. But he decided that a region of the kingdom needed a new road, or needed to have a road, and so he commissioned one to be built, and it was. It took a while, but when the final construction was complete, the king said, we're going to have a contest. And here's the contest. All the citizens who wish to participate, you come and show who can travel the highway the best. So on the appointed day, the citizens of the kingdom who wished to participate did indeed show up. Many were dressed in fine linen, outstanding regalia, athletic apparel. And at the appointed hour, it was not a race. The people traveled their best. Some danced the entire way. Some did athletic movements along the way. Somersaulting and tumbling and so forth. Others just walked. Some rode in fine chariots. And at the end was the king, and when each contestant crossed the line, the king would walk up and congratulate the individual for completing the distance. And he noticed a theme was taking place, and that theme was many of, if not most, complained. And here's the complaint. Along the way, along the route, there were a large amount of debris, rocks and so forth, and it hampered our movements. And so we had to walk around this, and it caused us to take pause in what we were doing. But we finished, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and most everybody indicated the rubble that was in the way that hampered their pursuit of traversing the entire length of the highway. Late in the evening, a haggard-looking, sweaty, dirty fellow walked up, and the king was looking at this guy. He thought, now, yeah, he needed your battalion there, Colonel, to assist him. But he came up and he said, he had something in his hand, and the king said, well, how was the route? And the man handed him a bag of gold, and he said, sir, along the way I discovered rubble, rocks, some small boulders and such that were in the way of the route. So I needed to clear this. And I did clear this. And underneath this pile, I discovered this bag of gold, and I wanted to return it to the rightful owner. And the king backed away and said, no, sir. That belongs to you, sir. Because he who travels the road best makes the road smoother for those who follow. That's what we do in the academy. In higher education at Tarleton State University, we make the road smoother. Yes, Dr. Peake indicated that I think that we're not here to answer questions, rather we're here to create those questions. That leads to inquiry, that leads to debate and challenge and so forth. For 29 years, in my 31-year association with this university now, I have been associated with some of the finest instructors, researchers, in the country. Heck, I should say in the world. I'm going to introduce you to some of these individuals here momentarily. So, the first one up there, Dr. Gillespie. Joe Gillespie couldn't be with us tonight. He's got a sick grandchild that he's taken care of. But what a fantastic administrator. And probably, if not the best statistician on campus, he was one of the best. Simply outstanding. He was department head for years, an athletic director. He was dean of education. Highly regarded individual. And I'm convinced he would have been VP for academics at this, had he wanted it. He wanted to come back and join the faculty because of his love of the classroom. Chet Martin. Chet's not here with us tonight, but Chet, among what I have listed here, is one of the state and region's best basketball officials. He's in high demand yearly in this. He was also among the first several on this campus to go online. He got the training early. He got his classes on early. He was an assistant professor, and I used to call him the alleged professor because, hey, he never saw anybody. Amy McKay, oh boy, what an effervescent personality Amy McKay is. If I've got a piece of candy, I hide. I just don't want to hear it. Here's something you may not know. She's one of the nation's best authorities, and she is a national speaker on multiple sclerosis. And what a feather in our cap she is. The late Ron Newsom. Dr. Newsom, he was a philosopher in his own right, a great historian, and probably the nation's foremost authority on Amos Alonzo's stag. So much that the Stag Bowl for Division III championship would contact him every year to lecture or write article or so forth. Kayla Peak, you've met Kayla Peak. Dr. Peak, fantastic marketer. So much. Hey, a couple of years ago, they brought her over to Health Sciences to fill in a vacant spot that was sorely needed, and she did it brilliantly. And we're glad she's back. She's glad she's back in our domain. But what a leader Dr. Peak is. Joe Priest, wow. What can I say about Joe Priest that hasn't been said? Well, Joe and I have been colleagues for those many years that I've been associated here. He's in his 33rd year. So in 1991, a job was offered. I applied. 33 other people applied for this job. It got down to 3 people. Dr. Gillespie, this is class. Dr. Gillespie was such a class individual. He called all 3 and said, okay, you're in the running on this and all 3. Just want you to know that we want you to come to campus. We want you to teach a lesson to our faculty. And we did. A week later, he called me and said, okay, it's down to 2 people. You and somebody who wasn't named. It was Joe Priest. And I was thinking, gosh, I couldn't understand why I was still in the running. Particularly when I found out that he was so suited for the position. He ended up getting the job, but the classic Joe Gillespie called me and said I didn't get the job. I didn't get an envelope with a single sheet of paper in there, with glorious statements in it that said, oh, there are so many candidates and you were one of the best ones. But it was a hard decision, Joe Priest got it, and he's still making his mark here yet today. We are so fortunate in having Joe Priest here on our kinesiology faculty. Joe Gillespie told me one time, Joe Priest probably put us on the map far better than anybody ever did with his laboratory for wellness and motor behavior. What he does with those with neurological, neuromuscular impairment is just, well, it's groundbreaking, is what it is. Misty's not here tonight. Misty was such a great person with professional development and with our students in their organization. Penny Wright is not here tonight. She's retired. Penny was a stalwart here for 5 decades. Graduated, I believe, in 76 and stayed here through the 2000s and was a fantastic advisor. Yes, I did skip, and I skipped him on purpose. Steve Simpson, my great friend, colleague for all these many years. Steve Simpson put Tarleton on the map in sports medicine. Do you know he's never had a person who has taken the state test fail? Not one. His graduates, his scholars are going out and making a remarkable mark on the world here. Well, yes, globally. I'll tell you about one of them just momentarily. Here's something you might not know about him. He's in the Southwest Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Fame. And about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, he was NCAA Athletic Trainer of the Year. He has participated once or twice in the Pan American Games as part of the United States Olympic Committee, and Athletes in Action in Poland. What he has done for all of us is simply phenomenal. Steve got here in 1984, so this is his 40th season here at Tarleton, and he's got a lot more years to go, I think. And I quiz him every other time. I go, well, Steve, what about? No, he's going to hang on. These individuals up here are my associates of 20 years plus. We have other outstanding junior faculty members that I wish to have included, but for the sake of time, I did not. And I see some of you in the audience here. Believe me, they're going to be making a mark as well in their chosen academic pursuits. A couple of our legacies. Now, we've got a lot, but I concentrated on three. My general loves to do things in threes. Well, so do I. I chose these three because of what they've meant to us and what they're doing currently in the world. Darren Willoughby, he's at UMHB in Belton right now. He's formerly at Baylor University, where he ran a neuromuscular laboratory there, and he knows more about, he blows you away on chemistry. Darren was the first Tarleton graduate student to write a thesis on this campus. I believe that was in the time of 1989 or so. But he is making a strong mark in the world and making us proud. Whoops. The one in the middle, Alicia, she is an athletic trainer. She is international. The United States Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, the Chinese Olympic Committee, what Alicia has been doing, and Alicia, I know you're online right now, watching us in cyberspace on live stream, and whatever time it is where you're at, 4 a.m. or whatnot, you can go to sleep immediately after this, and you're making us proud. She's going to be one of our scholar speakers on her next trip. I'm committed to that. And our last one here, Carl Gabbard. Carl Gabbard just retired, Texas A&M University. Dr. Gabbard is live streaming in as well. He is one of our greatest graduates from our discipline. Kinesiology is so big. It's its own discipline, and we're broken down into sub-disciplines. He was my mentor at Texas A&M, and motor development. And I will talk about motor development here in a moment. So what I'm doing right now is this is foundations class. On the occasions that I taught foundations, I always made sure that my student scholars knew who their potential instructors were going to be, given whether it was general education or a specialty area. I wanted them to know who our people were. But Carl Gabbard is a fellow in the Academy of Kinesiology. You don't apply for that. The Academy requests if you would like to join. He's had over 250 articles published, as well as 2 textbooks. He's legendary. And I called him a couple of years ago, and I was inviting him to come back to Tarleton. He's one of our distinguished graduates, by the way. And he said, well, I'm in Lisbon, Portugal right now. I'm consulting with the University of Lisbon. And I said, well, why do I have any wonder about that? Okay, now I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about my immediate and my extended family. Look at all of look at all the Tarleton. I'm going to point out the Tarleton graduates up here. It's my wife, Graziella. She is a 1994 graduate from business from Tarleton. These are my 2 children, Kendall, Garrett. He's in North Carolina. She is in Fort Worth. In fact, she's here tonight. It's going to actually help me out here in a little bit. Brent and Garrett Scouten, 3 Tarleton degrees between them. Brent in computer information systems and Garrett in business. Garrett has an MBA also from Tarleton. This is some of my kinesiology faculty. We were in Fort Worth at the time. There's my daughter, there's Carl Gabbard, there's Tall Tom Tallick. Tall Tom is one of our best on campus here in administration. And what's the number one thing that anybody who works for anybody says about their job? What's the favorite part of the job? The boss. Not money. Money's always good. I like money. I'm a capitalist. But it's the boss that we work for. And so many, we're indebted to our administrators. This is Jared. Jared's sitting out here in the audience. You should see this guy's academic pedigree. It stands up amongst anybody. And he's a noted historian, and he has brought so much to this university, diversity-wise, in the short amount of time he's been here. Well, I say short, 7 or 8 years. How many? Like I said, 10 years he's been here. Boy, time flies. Well, when I was here, it was 7 or 8. Molly Volley. Molly Volley is here in the audience. She's Texas Tech. That's okay. Graziella. Julie Mata is at Texas Tech, and she's one of ours, one of our very best. This one right here. This is my niece. My niece, Catherine. My niece, Catherine, in 1 month's time, will not only graduate from Tarleton, yes, with a degree in kinesiology, but she will become the newest officer in the United States Army. Outstanding. And there she is. She's got the red face right there. You can pick her out. And Dr. Hurley, yeah, this is a dog. And whether dogs are admitted by the time she gets around to time to put in applications and such. I can tell you this, she doesn't bleed purple, but she sleeps on it every night. So we're working on that. This fella, whoop. Sarah, I may need your help on getting back here. But this is Isaac. And Isaac lives in Tyler, Texas. And who knows what Isaac has in store for himself. But he is fourth grade. Is he a fourth grader? Fifth grader, okay. He's a fifth grader, and Isaac, he's a phenomenal athlete. Sharp as a tack, just like his other two brothers. But he had this Tarleton t-shirt on that I gave him, and so I said, man, I'm including this fella right here in the discussion. Thank you, Sarah. By the way, Sarah, this is Sarah McGrath. Sarah is technical director here in the Tarleton Theater, and a pretty good runner, it appears. Yeah, Amy, you may want to talk to her about your next marathon. How many marathons have you run? 6. Okay, anybody else has 6 marathons? All right. Oh, I took that picture of me right in here at our Fort Worth campus. I just couldn't resist the sign. Okay, now, we have about 3 of our previous last lecturers here in the audience tonight. Chris Guthrie was the first 10 years ago in 2014. Chris and I were I was in the audience in the theater in 2000. I was watching a pretty good play, and I said, well, that looks like Chris Guthrie down there on stage. And the more I watched, I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. So I auditioned for the next play, and I actually got a part. And I've often wondered, had I not gotten a part, perhaps I wouldn't have auditioned any further. I have been in 24 plays. On this stage, yes, I sang and I danced. And I've done a lot on the other stage. My favorite is the very small one, because that intimate stage is perfect for summer, the summer series. So Chris and I were in probably a dozen plays, and as you might guess, Chris is no longer with us. As a matter of fact, he died shortly after he gave his last lecture. What a scholar he was, history scholar. He's an author. President McCabe commissioned him to write the history of Tarleton State University for our centennial celebration in 1999. He accomplished that mission. Subsequently, he and I were in as I mentioned, a dozen plays together, and it was always fun when he and I we would audition, we would get together, we'd look around and we'd say, wonder how many old guy parts there are. Well, enough for he and I to have been in 10, 12 different plays. And so here's what I'm going to do. Jim Kirby juggled in his last lecture. And Jim, I remember some magic tricks as well. Okay. And we've had a couple since then. Dr. Thompson was one of them that sang, picked up the guitar and sang. Well, I'm not going to do either of those, but I am going to do a monologue. So I searched back in my scripts I wanted to find something that involved Chris minimally, so I'm going to act his part by only saying that in this play, Chris was Arliss Struve, and you might recognize Richard Denning, the great director that was here for decades. I want to honor Chris 10 years after his last lecture, but I want to honor him as a great friend, and I miss him so much. So I have asked Kendall's going to read the part of Vera Karp. So this is Vera Karp Kendall. Thank you very much. And we're going to do our rendition of Reverend Spikes giving a eulogy. Now this eulogy, let me give you some background. Reverend Spikes wasn't a very good minister. He kind of floated along and did what he wanted, minimal, I might add. And the local judge passed away, and Chris Guthrie as Arliss and Richard Denning were their script, their roles. They were at the radio station, and they were going to broadcast this. So I'll inject Arliss from time to time. And he had not studied Judge Buckner. He knew him in name, but he really didn't know him as a person. And so let's watch. This is going to take about 3 minutes.
Well, here he is. I hereby turn this meeting over to our honorable president, Reverend Spikes.
Oh, thank you, Vera and folks. I'm so sorry I'm so late. But let's get down to business. Now, the first thing we're going to do is organize the book snatching party to go down to that Tarleton State University library.
I already told him that part.
Well, that's half the fun in being president, is organizing the book snatchers.
I'm sorry, I won't do it again.
Well, see that you don't. Okay, folks. Now, the next thing we got to talk about is our bilingual communique that's going to be taught by my wife, Graciela.
I already told him that part too.
Well, you just went and told him about everything, didn't you?
Well, what did you expect me to do while you were gone for 15 minutes? Do TikTok dances?
Now, look, I'm not going to get in a big hussy fit up here in front of all these fine, good folks with you.
The live stream people are watching, so hush.
Oh, so they are. Well, hello, Alice. Yeah, how are you? Oh, me? I'm fine. What's that? Are we ready for the Buckner eulogy?
Yes, we are.
Oh, sure, we're ready for the Buckner eulogy. Tell you what, Alice, why don't you get everything all set up, and I will, just give me a little wave when you're ready. Oh, you are ready. Oh, I don't know about this. Yeah, sure, I'm ready. Let me go to the good book here. Oh, gee, I'm gonna go to the First Simpson here in the good book, and are we live? Oh, okay, all right. Well. Oh boy. this is this is Reverend Spikes, and I just want to say a few things about a friend of mine and a friend of Tarleton. Roscoe Buckner spent his entire life in service to his community, his country, and his Lord. And we're sure that when the roll is called up yonder, he'll be there. He was a judge who made hay while the sun shined, but always let his smile be his umbrella. Why, he always saw the sunny side up and always saw the silver lining behind every cloud, except yesterday with the eclipse. He was a judge that wouldn't take no wooden nickels nor threw caution to the wind. Why, he always looked before he leapt and never got in over his head. No, he kept his head while everybody around him was losing theirs and blaming it on him. Why, he kept a stiff upper lip and his nose to the wheel. Now, about this man, we can truly say he was one of a kind, a jolly good fellow, which nobody can deny. He was all for one and one for all and to his own self true. And I can tell you this, he did it his way. Now, he was a serious-minded judge who let bygones be bygones, but he remembered the Alamo. Now, about this man, we can truly say that he was the cream in Tarleton's coffee. He fought fire with fire, but kept the home fires burning. Now, if things got a little bit too hot, he'd just get out of the kitchen. Now, he would walk that extra mile, but he'd walk it softly. He'd carry a big stick. He was a pepper, man's man. Early to bed and early to rise, he laid his cards out on the table, gathered down by the river, and brung in those sheaves. Hunger was his best pickle.
What the heck does that mean?
Now, hush, Vera. Now, folks, I've done my best to describe such a man, and it's hard. But now it's time for us to commend his soul to you, Lord, and I, the Reverend Spikes, recommend him to you. Amen, Lord, amen. What's that, Alice? Oh, good grief. Okay. This is a Reverend Spikes. And I just want to say a few words about a friend of mine and a friend of Tarleton's. Chris Guthrie, you're my longtime friend. You've been gone for us for 10 years. But you know, you and I are going to be on the playbill again one of these days. And it's going to be fun. Now, what was the first thing that I said to you when I walked out here tonight? I called you scholars, because you are. I brought you down the road in kinesiology of my scholar associates of 3 decades, and now I'm into my 4th decade with my associate scholars, and I shared with them. I shared with some of our graduates who are out making their mark in the world, and each and every one of them are distinguished. Now, in my classes, I called my students scholars. I did this in a small way to just say, you know, you're at the academy, you're in higher education. There are expectations that you have to live by, that you must conduct yourself. This is an academic discipline, this discipline of kinesiology. It is vast. It is so vast, as I mentioned earlier, we're divided into sub-disciplines. So scholars, I intend, earlier was foundations. Now I'm going to go into my motor behavior. Now that was the class that I really enjoyed teaching most of all. But first, here's what you've got to know. You've got to know certain levels of conduct. And so my first level, get in class ahead of time. This is a big campus. I know some of you are across campus and you have scheduled yourself into this class at this time. I want you here ahead of time. So there's not any time that you can mess around in getting from one location to the other if you have a preceding class to this one. Now, what did your old coach used to say? If you're on time, you're late. So I will begin class immediately on time. If you're not there, I'm going to go on. I want you to, however, come right on in, and I always had extra seats by the door where you could come in as unobtrusively as possible and sit down and begin your class within our class. I rarely had anybody that was late. When I would sub in others' classes and people would walk in late, it kind of bugged me a little bit. But I gave them a pass. Now, I expect you to be prepared. I expect you to be prepared on the readings of that day, prior readings of other, even prerequisite classes. I will quiz you on those because they're that important. At the in higher education, preparation, as is in anything in life, is paramount. Particularly if you want to get maximum effect from the course you have signed up for and are attending. Because you can't say, I don't know. Because if I asked you a question, Reverend, if you're in my class and I say, hey, what's cephalocotyle? And you, I don't know. Now, we will have already studied that. It will be in your readings. Right, Dr. Simpson? Look it up. It's in your readings. And here's my expectation. You may not know, and that's legitimate. But if you've prepared, you may not be so ingrained on it that you have supreme knowledge on this, but you've got to come up with something better than I don't know. It's just simply figure something. I had a sergeant one time who said to me when I was in IET, initial entry training in the Guard, Texas State Guard. He said, Sadler, I want this answer. I don't care if you get it wrong. Give me an answer. Make a decision. What do coaches do in practice or in the actual game? Does a coach say, gee, I don't know? A coach has to make a decision. A teacher has to make a decision. A parent has to make a decision. In my motor behavior class, I used a lot of sport analogies, of course, but then I also used, in the later part of my career, driving, because all of us drive. And there's not a moment we aren't processing information when we're driving to stay between the lines. We can't afford to say, I don't know. And don't answer a question with a question mark. Ed, 2 and 2 equals, and Ed says, 4? Oh, if you're going to make a mistake, make it with enthusiasm. 4. I was in front of a board one time early on, and Colonel Terry said to me, he said, Sadler, what's an S4? Well, I really wasn't sure. I was brand new, and I was just cutting my teeth and so forth, and I said, sir, that's logistics. And he followed that with, are you sure? And I said, yes, sir. If I was going to make a mistake, if I was going to go down, I was going to go down in flames. I must have been right, because he went on to a different question. The point is, we don't always know. But we cannot let anything stand in our way of being a leader. We expect our leaders to know, K-N-O-W. Sometimes you just have to take a risk. I expect you to, this is a writing intensive class. I expect you to write well, of course, that's a given, but I also expect you to speak well. If you use improper grammar, I will stop you and I will correct you. We're still going to be friends. At the end of the class, I'm going to hug your neck and I'm going to say whatever it is that I'm going to say. But the point is, you can make a mistake. Let's correct the mistake, whether it's our spoken word or our written. I'm certainly going to do it in the written word. And I had APA. Well, I taught the heck out of APA. That's the writing style for my discipline. And it could be intense on occasions. But you know, we're still friends. Dr. Simpson and I have talked about this before. And this usually comes up at the end of a semester. I don't know why it never comes up at the beginning of a semester. Hey, can I have more work? Well, that just wouldn't make sense, would it? And so, don't ask me for extra credit, because we're going over the syllabus today. We're going to be in here the entire length of our assigned class time, our class allotment. I'm going to cover everything and more. You are expected to bring your... Dr. Talek, I'm glad he's not here right now. He wanted us to have everything in digits. Well, I was still old school, and I printed everything, and I handed it out. And I said, scholars, bring this to class with you every time. We won't get it out each and every time, but we will refer to it upon occasion. So extra credit, no, that's a failure right there. Yes, I did have a dress code. At the academy, there are acceptable dress for you to wear, and it could be, in my domain, a nice-looking warm-up suit. It could be slacks and a shirt. Some of my scholars wore nice dresses and pantsuits and so forth, and unacceptable, however, to wear a hat in class. Cannot wear a hat in class. I would remind you, Dr. Gillespie was in my class. He was observing me one time in my early days in the 90s here at Tarleton. And I walked in class, I saw a kid with a hat on. I just tapped my head, and he took it off. I really never had any problems with that. Because you know, here in Texas, we do love our hats. But I just did. Do you know who Beetle Bailey is? I know all of you young scholars don't. Beetle Bailey was the comic strip character. He wore his hat down, covered his eyes. I didn't want any Beetle Baileys in class. I wanted to see your eyes, and I wanted to observe that, oh gosh, I hate to say antiquated, but old school thing. I didn't want you to wear underwear as outerwear. You know, the old proverbial wife beater t-shirt? Oh, absolutely, no. And I have invited many a student to leave because of that was not proper decorum. And sagging pants, well, that was in the 90s. And then it went away. Then it came back. No, you're not going to do that in my class. You're going to hike your britches up. I don't care if it's underneath your midriff, midway on your chest. This is the way this is going. Hey, I realize this is old school stuff, but it's my school stuff. And when you have standards are, they're taken to heart. And so I didn't want somebody come in sagging your pants. I didn't want to know what kind of underwear you wore. I'm not going to come in sagging my pants so that you can see that I wear Joe Boxer. I don't. I think it's Hanes, but regardless, you're not going to know that. Silence your phones. Hey, I gave up saying, turn your phones off. But silence your phone, and furthermore, put it so far away in your bag that you're going to have a hard time finding it when the class is done. I kind of loosened up a little bit towards the end when I would actually ask students to get phones out to look certain things up. And it was a very helpful tool. But don't lay it on your desk because that becomes a distraction. N'est-ce pas? Oui. No excuses. Hey, excuses are like rear ends, right? Everybody's got one. I don't need to hear your excuses and such, and you don't need to hear mine. We've all got them, and I've got some good ones too. But no, Reverend Spikes, I'm not going to be using them right here. And I don't want you to be, a scholar is not that guy. Now, who's that guy? Well, you all know. All of you in here who are teachers know who that guy is, right? You've got that guy, and by the way, this is gender neutral. I've had plenty of that gals in class as well. Don't offer up any silliness, any nonsense. If I ask you a question and you don't know, and then you give me back a silly response, I just politely remind you that, wait a minute, I'm the only comedian in class, and would you care to try again? If you don't, by the way, I did forget to tell you, I would go and stand by your desk until you came up with something. Oh, we had the colors on some people's faces were, actually it was kind of entertaining to see the colors that we would have. So, all right, scholars, so we've come to this part. Now let's get into class. So I indicated to you my joyful class, the one that I just loved going into the most among all of them, was motor behavior. So I would typically start, what's motor? Movement. What's behavior? What's how you do something or how something is done. So what's motor behavior? How we move. I think we can all agree that everybody in this room, we can all walk. That's the motor part. The behavior part is that our walk is probably different from each other. I was watching my shadow one day, sun behind me and coming across, and I was noticing I kind of waddle when I walk. And so I realized that an important behavioral thing about our movements. Now, motor development. Development has nothing to do with learning. Development is our genetic design, our heredity. We have a human species heredity. We have a family heredity. And you mix all those things together, we still develop uniformly and sequentially. And so this is a matter of heredity, not of learning. Oh, hey, what's the first form, you can't answer this. What's the first form of human locomotion? Well, first of all, locomotion. It's moving in space from one point to another. Non-locomotion, moving but not changing my position in space. Manipulation, moving with another object. So those are known as the fundamental motor skills. And I used to teach the heck out of those in foundations class because you're going to need it in motor behavior. So what's the first form, I ask you, what's the first form of human locomotion? And let me see here. I'm going to ask Mr. MBA, what's the first form of human locomotion? And you can't say, I don't know. Close. But this takes place before then. Anybody else? Rolling over. Thank you, Mr. Mathematician. Rolling over. I have changed position. We're designed to do that. I didn't learn to do that. All of you did that. You didn't learn to do that. We did that because of head position and because in our certain timeline and our muscular development that development does not mean learning in this instance. It's phylogenetic, by the way. That's a phylogenetic movement. Phylogenetic are motor activities that are not learned. And Dr. Barrows will tell us that many of our special needs individuals are 2 to 4 years behind in that area, and that's being generous in some cases. So walking is typically our last form of human locomotion that is not learned. Then we jump over into motor learning, and then we go into ontogenetics, and then now running is our first form of locomotion in motor learning, ontogenetically, but a permanent change in performance. This means it's been learned. A permanent change in behavior, in our motor behavior. I used to tell people tennis is the same whether it's junior high, high school, college, or professional. It's all the same. The performance, however, differs from level to level. Young people are not little adults. They're just simply young people. Too often, we try to make them into adults, and developmentally, they're not there. Learning comes given time, and it's actually not that much time, but given time. So let's go to, she's turning red again. This is Catherine. Cadet Lieutenant Sadler right here when she was a baby sitting up. Her mom was so proud she sent us pictures. And I have used this for, she's 21 years old now. I've used it for 20 years. She's sitting up, and that's part of the sequence. But on the written side of this, we have to learn systems of the bodies, whether it's muscular system, skeletal system, endocrine system, neuro system, whatever system it may be. We have abilities. And by the way, all of us in this room have the same abilities. My abilities are the same as your abilities are the same as my abilities. Abilities are what then? Part of our genetic makeup, our heredity. Abilities are not learned. I marveled, Jim, at you when you juggled up here. I taught myself how to juggle one semester, and I told the class at the end of the semester I would juggle, and I did. That's manual dexterity, the ability of manual dexterity, finger dexterity, multi-limb coordination, among 30 arguable abilities. But we all have those abilities. Now, they vary from person to person. And if we're not allowed the chance to practice those, then I'm convinced that everybody, everywhere, is the world's greatest at something. We just never will know what that is, unfortunately. It's environmental. I'm getting the cut sign here. It's environmental. It's interest, motivation, and such. But regardless, it's part of our makeup. And it is nature. Now, this is nurture. Nature is heredity. Nurture is part of the influence of the environment. Coaches are part of the environment. Teachers, parents, friends are part of the environment. We take all of these in for the part, 20% of the class, motor behavior, is going to be motor learning. So 80% is motor development. But on this side of it, heavy emphasis on cognition and processing of information. We process information. You are processing information right now. What is our prime modality? Light. Audio, about 10%. Tactile, touch, and everything else falls into that final 10%. So is touch not important? Oh, you better believe it's important in the things that we do, whether it's on the athletic field or driving an automobile. And ontogenetic. One thing, Carl Gabbard, if you're listening in right now, you made an influence on me with adapted plasticity, how the brain is plastic and we change. We rewire given circumstances. Well, this is also a writing-intensive class, and I refer to George Orwell. And George Orwell, if people can't write well, they can't think well. If you can't think well, others are going to do the thinking for you. Who among you in this audience is going to allow anybody to do your thinking? I'm not. I may come to you seeking information so that I can make an informed decision. On the occasion that I'm on the athletic field, coaches get way too much credit with wins and losses. That's the players' game. When it's game time, it's the players. Not the coaches, the players. Coaches earn their pay when? In practice. And so this is a writing intensive class. We're not going to write every day. Heck, I got too many other things to do in there. But it's going to be a very highly important part of this class, and your matriculation towards getting that onion skin from that fella sitting right there. Next month, you'll get to meet him again, Catherine. Oh, gosh, here we are. What did Yogi Berra say? When you come to the fork in the road, take it. Well, the great poet Robert Frost published arguably perhaps his greatest poem, Road Not Taken. And A Lone Traveler is only 4 stanzas long. So in 1915, this was published. It was actually kind of a joke to a friend of his, an English friend of his, and they bantered back and forth on this poem and the wording thereof. But a lone traveler came to this fork in the road, and he looked down one lane as far as he could, and he saw that it was nice and well worn and lit and so forth. He looked down the other side, and he noticed that it was less worn, but it seemed pretty good of a pathway. And in the 4th stanza, Frost says that the traveler chose the road less traveled, and that made all the difference. So here's my interpretation of this. Not always do we take the easy route. Rather, we take a challenge. Hey, you're in college. This academy needs to be challenging you, the road less traveled. Not always the sunny road, the road with less difficulty and such. I was offered 2 jobs coming out of my graduate studies at Baylor. One was in Corpus Christi, the other was in Big Spring in West Texas. They both were teaching and coaching jobs, and I thought I knew pretty much what I was getting into. And if I chose the West Texas school, then I felt like it might be a little bit tougher on me. The Corpus Christi job may be a little bit easier, but both were worn just about the same. I ultimately chose one over the other, and it made all the difference in my career. But wait a minute. The title of this poem is The Road Not Taken. What if I had taken the Corpus Christi job rather than the West Texas job? My future as it unfolded would be probably far different than what I probably wouldn't be standing here tonight. Unsolicited advice. Take these as you like. Pay tribute to those who came before you. It could be a relative. It could be a Sunday school teacher. It could be your neighbor. It could be your parent. It could be a teacher, a coach, somebody of influence that has made an impact on your life. And it's okay to take the road less traveled. Sometimes it ends up being the better route. Heaven forbid we have to make decisions on the pathway to excellence, don't we? The pathway is never cut and dried. It's never illuminated so much that it allows us a certainty. It's okay to make mistakes. General, is it okay to make mistakes? How many times do you say it's okay to make mistakes? It means you're doing something. You know what? If you're not making mistakes, you're probably not doing something, and you're not. at best, you're treading in marking time. Cadet Lieutenant, when you become the newest officer in the United States Army in 1 month's time, you're expected to make mistakes. Make your mistakes. Make them with enthusiasm. And you start to, Captain, okay, yeah, but that's company grade, so you get into field grade, you need to less and less and less. N'est-ce pas? Oui. No job. You are not entitled. We are not entitled. Well, sometimes we get a little indignant. Well, don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? You don't? What job are you? I applied for this job here, but I got this job here. I'm in the mailroom. Well, be the best mailroom sorter that you can possibly be, because a lot more is ahead of you, and that is a guarantee. Tell people what they mean to you. I was in a colleague's office not long ago, and I expressed that I missed being in the classroom, but I missed your company. I missed coming in here at the end of the day and solving the world's problems. And we solved a lot of problems. Tell your mom and dad what they mean to you. Heck, use the word love. Tell them that you love. I'm so happy that I ended most of my phone conversations with my parents before they passed away with "I love you." And they began to say the same back to me as well. It wasn't one-sided. So, however you wish to express, whatever you wish to express, don't be bashful. Find a mentor. Oh, I've had lots of mentors. Joe Gillespie. He's not here tonight, but he was a great mentor to me. Carl Gabbard was a great mentor to me and still continues to be to this day. I have colleagues in the Guard that mean so much to me that I value what they have to say and what we have to offer and such. Let that not be a hindrance to you. Find yourself a mentor. Oh, wait a minute. You don't even have a job right now. Start planning your retirement. It's never too early. If you wish to have a good, solid afterlife, and I'm talking after your professional life is done, then invest in your future. Heck, Reverend, if you want to have a good, profitable life in your afterlife, plan that right now too, right? Very good. And my last one, travel. I was going to retire at 70, but Grace and I made a determination that let's knock a couple of years off of that and let's start traveling. And we have accomplished that to a small degree. In less than 2 months, we're going to be in France. Then we're going to go to Italy. Then we're going to go to Switzerland. And who knows after that? But I'm going to, she and I, we're going to get in this Corvette and we're going to finish Route 66. Ramona, we're going to finish Route 66 and see wherever else that it carries us. But we're not going to get on a treadmill here. we're going to get out and move. And scholars, I'll leave you with one last thing. This trip that I'm in right here, this hour has not been my epilogue. Rather, it is my commencement. I'm traveling, this is over Hillsboro, Texas. I'm traveling at 125 miles an hour. You can see the drone chute above us. And that drone chute is to keep you at 125 miles an hour. You don't want to get any higher than that. Dr. Simpson jumped last week. Ramona was solidly behind him on that. You were 100% behind him, weren't you? Yeah, I saw the video and I heard what you said when he landed. So let's do things like this. You don't have to do this, but let's do things like this and live. Let's live. Thank you for being here, scholars. That concludes my remarks. Joe Priest, everybody. Joe Priest, exiting the building.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sadler, for your remarks today at this last lecture of 2024. At this time, I would like to invite the president of Tarleton State University, Dr. James Hurley, to the podium.
Well, what an incredible lecture and what an incredible scholar himself to be able to deliver this last lecture. We all know, so instead of reading all these things that Dr. Baker and others
Just
prepared,
ad-lib it.
we know, everyone in here, we know Dr. Sadler. The one thing that stands out to me, it stood out to me soon after maybe a year and two or time together here, but he brought it home during the lecture. It's never about him. He started off talking about all the people that matter the most in his life, and his family, and his friends, his colleagues, his mentors, the people that have shaped and molded, sculpted him as a scholar and him as a leader and a person. And that's leadership. He is proud of his students above all the accomplishments in the trifecta that Dr. Peake alluded to, the academic trifecta in terms of accomplished scholarship. But it's you beamed more brightly when you talked about your students and your family. That's what matters the most. And so we're so thankful. We're sad. I was sad when you told me you were going to retire. I begged you, I think, to consider staying another year or two, but you said you had a lot of other things to accomplish and missions to accomplish. I think was the word you used, more missions to accomplish. But also I want to thank you. We know you as the scholar. Very few know you as the soldier and the leader of men and women out on the battlefield, and your selfless sacrifice to our country. And for that, we say thank you as well. So we have a gift for you. If this box feels hollow, it's an IOU. Dr. Peake promises that this award will soon come, but you have to come back every year and do something meaningful at Tarleton State.
Grace,
and eventually,
write that down, Grace.
And eventually, you'll get your award. We're so proud of you. Let's go,
Thank you, sir.
For Twitter. X, you're right. Insta now. Very few are on X. We're thankful for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Boy. Well, I wore it tonight.
And I know Dr. Sadler would want me to do this. There are two people that I want to thank for bringing this back. I want to thank Dr. Schaus and Leslie Leach. During COVID, this did get lost. And it was, I don't know, 2022. I remember Amy and I sitting in my conference room, and where were we? I think, oh, we were in a golf cart. You're right. But I remember it was brought to my attention in my conference room, and I asked, why? Where is this lecture series? What happened? I understand COVID. We're out of COVID. What's happened? And no one could explain it. And then you said what you said, and I said, well, let's bring it back. And I'm so thankful we brought it back because this lesson was incredible for all of us. And it's certainly something we'll take with us. So, Dr. Sadler, once again, thank you. On behalf of Tarleton State University, thanks for your many years of service. And on the behalf of all of higher ed, thank you for your selfless service. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sadler. We appreciate your words, and congratulations on a great lecture. On behalf of Dr. Leslie Leach and the Center for Educational Excellence, we thank you all for attending. We hope that you will think about who the next last lecturer will be, so keep that in your mind. And we hope you have a great night and have a safe trip home. Thank you so much.